What if I told you that the path of a 33 billion ton object traveling through the densest debris field in the inner solar system defied every single known law of physics? A routine trajectory analyst at the Minor Planet Center in Cambridge was doing just that, working on her usual task, processing the overnight astrometric measurements from the Gaia spacecraft. This was her daily job, tracking the position of interstellar objects as they pass through the inner solar system. But what started as an ordinary assignment quickly turned into something far from predictable. Her algorithms had tracked the object 3 Atlas as it passed through the inner Oort cloud, a region containing over 12,000 cataloged microcomets and cometary debris. The Oort cloud is infamous for its chaotic, dense collection of celestial bodies, and it's a place where collisions are almost a certainty. The object had been following its expected path, as predicted by gravitational models, but when the analyst ran the latest set of data, she noticed something that made her freeze. The object's trajectory had shifted. This wasn't the expected change in trajectory based on gravitational interactions. It was something different. Her algorithms calculated that a 33 billion ton object moving at a staggering 87 kilometers per second had just passed through a field of debris with a mere 0.000014% chance of avoiding collisions. The odds of a perfect traversal, one where the object avoids every piece of debris, were an impossible 1 inch 7.1 billion. She stared at the number, then checked the data again. The result was the same. The object had somehow navigated this treacherous field without hitting a single object. No debris was ejected. No impact scars were visible. Her heart raced. She pulled up data from the James Webb Space Telescope, JWST. The images confirmed it. 3 Atlas had exited the debris field without a scratch. Not even a trace of damage. The spacecraft had moved through a chaotic, high-risk zone, yet not a single obstacle had touched it. There was no sign of collision, no sign of impact damage. The object was pristine, untouched. Her hands froze above the keyboard. This wasn't just improbable, this was impossible. She double-checked the data from the Gaia spacecraft, running the confirmation process independently. It matched the earlier results. Atlas had passed through the densest debris field in the inner solar system and avoided all impacts. She reached for the phone. This was no ordinary data anomaly. She wasn't calling the routine data line. She was calling the director of the center directly. Her voice was steady, but the urgency was unmistakable. The object cleared the Oort cloud without a single hit. The probability is 1 inch 7 billion. That's not possible. The director, equally stunned, immediately reviewed the raw data. Within minutes, the team at JWST had confirmed the traversal. Within 2 hours, the Hubble Space Telescope had been retasked to investigate the object for potential signs of damage. Within 4 hours, NASA's Orbital Mechanics Division convened in an emergency meeting. By the end of the day, every major observatory on Earth was tracking the object's trajectory. But there was one lingering question that no one could answer. How could a 33 billion ton object moving at 87 kilometers per second pass through this field of 12,000 obstacles and avoid every single collision? The calculations were clear. The probability of a perfect pass was so low that it seemed inconceivable. The object's trajectory had been well within the known limits of physics until it entered the debris field. What followed next, however, broke all the rules of probability. The math was simple, yet it didn't add up. Predictive models for objects traveling through dense debris fields like the one Atlas had entered were clear and unambiguous. Any natural object moving at such high velocity would be subject to countless collisions. The calculated probability of avoiding those collisions, as per the fundamental principles of orbital mechanics, was near zero. According to established theory, the object's journey through the Oort cloud should have been catastrophic. The debris within this region was not scattered haphazardly. Over billions of years, Gravitational interactions had shaped the orbits of these objects, creating a dense web of obstacles. Some were as large as 10 kilometers in diameter, others smaller, down to 100 meters. The spacing between them was random, but with so many bodies in such a small area, avoiding collisions was all but impossible. The analysis was chilling. If the object had truly passed through the debris field without suffering even a single impact, it violated every law of kinetic physics. For one, a 33 billion-ton object, composed mostly of water, ice, and silicate rock, would have experienced significant structural degradation during such a passage. With every collision, material would be stripped away, producing shock waves that could alter the object's trajectory. But no such signs were detected. The lack of any impact damage was not just extraordinary, it was beyond comprehension. No debris cloud was ejected, no fragments, no signs of distress. 3 Atlas had traveled through the densest debris field in the solar system, and yet it showed no signs of damage or even deviation from its original trajectory. The trajectory analyst was in disbelief. To her, the numbers didn't lie, but the reality defied the mathematics she relied on daily. The calculated probability of a collision was far too high to ignore, yet the object had survived unscathed. It was at that moment that the team began to entertain an idea they had once dismissed as impossible. What if this was not a natural object? What if this was something engineered, something intelligent? The Hubble Space Telescope's high-resolution images confirmed that the object's exterior remained pristine, without even the smallest scratches. This further corroborated the idea that something was not adding up. The physical properties of this object were unlike anything they had encountered before. This wasn't just an anomaly, it was a deliberate design. As the hours passed, more and more evidence piled up, each new discovery more puzzling than the last. Every instinct told the team that what they were observing was not a typical comet, not an ordinary interstellar object. 3 Atlas was something else entirely, something that moved with a precision and intent that defied the most sophisticated models of our time. The more data the team collected, the clearer it became that 3 Atlas had performed maneuvers during its journey through the debris field, maneuvers that were mathematically impossible for a passive object. The course corrections were minute, but they were precise. Each adjustment of its pitch and yaw indicated a purposeful change in its path. The timing of these corrections was not reactive but anticipatory. The object corrected its course before it even encountered the obstacles ahead. This was not a random, chaotic passage through a field of debris. This was something with advanced knowledge of where the obstacles were and how to avoid them. How was it possible for an object to know what lay ahead, to adjust its path in real time with such incredible precision? The data from Gaia and JWST was clear. 3 Atlas knew exactly where it was going and how to navigate around the debris. The trajectory data was too precise to be mere coincidence. The object made its course adjustments in sync with the positions of the objects it was about to encounter. It was as if the object had an internal map of the debris field, and it was using that map to avoid collisions with near-perfect accuracy. And yet, there was no sign of any active propulsion, no emissions, no heat signatures, no exhaust plumes, no cryogenic propellant, nothing that would indicate any kind of conventional maneuvering system. The object was performing navigational changes without any detectable energy output, something that should have been impossible by all current standards. The impossibility of it all began to sink in. How could an object of this size and velocity, made up of what appeared to be natural materials, execute such precise maneuvers? No known propulsion system could account for these changes in course. And if it wasn't using propulsion, what was driving these changes? The team had no answer. The most reasonable explanation, the one that seemed to fit all the data, was one that no one had wanted to consider at first. Perhaps this wasn't just an interstellar object. Perhaps this was something designed, something engineered by intelligence far beyond our current understanding. The more they analyzed the data, the more the evidence pointed to this possibility. Every bit of evidence contradicted the known laws of physics and orbital mechanics. The idea that 3 Atlas was an artificial object, an engineered piece of technology, became harder and harder to dismiss. But if that were true, then the next question became inevitable. Who or what had designed this object, and what was its purpose? As the team continued to review the data, one thing became clear. The object wasn't just passing through our solar system, it was navigating with intent. It wasn't just moving through the Oort cloud and on to its next destination. 3 Atlas was on a calculated course, adjusting its path with precision like a scout or a probe. And as the team considered this possibility, the implications were staggering. If 3 Atlas was indeed a probe, what other technology could it possess? What civilization had the capability to create something so advanced, so precisely engineered, and so mysterious? As the team pondered these questions, they began to realize that they were not just studying a cosmic anomaly, they were witnessing the arrival of something far more significant. As the investigation deepened, new pieces of evidence began to emerge that would further challenge everything the team thought they knew about space, physics, and the nature of this object. One of the most perplexing data points came from the Hubble Space Telescope. The high-resolution images showed the surface of 3 Atlas, and there was something extraordinary about it. No visible impact craters, no signs of thermal stress, no material degradation whatsoever. Given the sheer forces exerted on the object as it passed through the Oort cloud, it should have shown signs of stress. Natural comets, especially one as large as 3 Atlas, would experience severe mechanical degradation under such conditions. The repeated course corrections alone should have caused fractures or structural weakening, yet 3 Atlas was perfectly intact. To understand the significance of this, the team turned to theoretical models. A 33 billion-ton object, composed primarily of ice, rock, and silicate material, would, according to every known model, undergo rapid physical degradation as it navigated such an intense environment. The gravitational forces, combined with the inevitable collisions, should have torn the object apart or at least caused significant surface damage. But 3 Atlas didn't just survive, it emerged unscathed. The conclusion that many on the team were now leaning toward was both stunning and unsettling. The object was not made of the materials it appeared to be. The spectroscopic signature from JWST's analysis indicated a composition of materials that were inconsistent with anything found in natural cometary bodies. Instead of ice and rock, the object's surface seemed to contain metallic compounds, ceramics, and crystallized structures, materials engineered for strength and resilience. This was no ordinary comet. The implications of this discovery were enormous. If 3 Atlas wasn't a natural object, then it was something far more sophisticated. But the real question lingered. What was its purpose? Further analysis of the data began to suggest that 3 Atlas was not merely a passive traveler from the distant stars. It was maneuvering with precision, making course corrections based on real-time data from its environment. This wasn't a comet on a collision course with Earth or another planet. This was something intelligently navigating the interstellar debris field, adjusting its course with the purpose and knowledge of a highly advanced civilization. As the team continued to pore over the data, one thought gnawed at them. What kind of technology could be responsible for this? A technology so advanced that it could navigate space with zero detectable propulsion, altering its trajectory with microscopic precision. And then came the final, most chilling realization. 3 Atlas wasn't just passing through the Oort cloud. It wasn't just observing, it was making deliberate course corrections toward Earth. The trajectory residuals suggested a final, terrifying conclusion. The object wasn't leaving the solar system, it was entering the inner solar system, and its final approach was targeting the Earth-Moon system. The implications were too great to ignore. Every piece of data now pointed to the same unsettling conclusion. 3 Atlas was not a passive object. It wasn't a comet on a random trajectory. This object was heading toward Earth, and it had done so with a precision that left no room for doubt. The course corrections, the anticipatory navigation, the lack of visible propulsion, all of it indicated that 3 Atlas was more than just a space rock. It was something capable of purposeful, intelligent navigation. The team began to process the implications of this. If 3 Atlas was deliberately entering the Earth-Moon system, then what was its purpose? Was it a probe? An automated scout sent by a civilization far more advanced than ours? Or was it something else? Something even more profound? The idea that 3 Atlas was a piece of technology, perhaps a scout from a Type 2 civilization, began to take root in the minds of the team members. Type 2 civilizations, as theorized in the Kardashev scale, are capable of harnessing the energy of an entire star. Could it be that 3 Atlas was a piece of that civilization's technology, sent to explore the far reaches of our solar system? The idea seemed outlandish at first, but the evidence was undeniable. The object had navigated through the densest debris field in the inner solar system with the precision of a spacecraft. It had avoided every obstacle in its path, adjusting its trajectory in real time, and it was now heading toward Earth with the same calculated precision. This wasn't just an anomaly, it was a deliberate, intelligent action. The team's thoughts turned to string theory and geodesic manipulation. Could 3 Atlas be utilizing a propulsion system that we had never even imagined? What if, instead of using chemical rockets or traditional propulsion, the object was interacting with the fabric of space-time itself? This could explain the lack of detectable exhaust or propellant emissions. If the object was manipulating gravitational fields or using some form of exotic propulsion, it would move without friction, without the need for traditional fuel sources. The more they studied the object, the more they realized that 3 Atlas was not just an object of great scientific interest, it was a harbinger of something far more significant. It was a sign that we were no longer alone in the universe. The technology required to navigate space with such precision, to manipulate gravitational fields, and to travel through the vast distances of space suggested a level of intelligence far beyond what we had previously imagined. And as 3 Atlas made its way closer to Earth, the question that haunted the team grew louder. What would happen when it arrived? Was it a messenger, a scout, or something far more ominous? As the object neared its final trajectory, the clock was ticking, time was running out, and humanity was about to confront a reality that no one could have predicted. As 3 Atlas continued its calculated journey inward, the entire scientific community was in a state of high alert. Every moment brought new data, new discoveries, and yet more unanswered questions. The once clear distinction between the natural and the artificial was rapidly disintegrating. This was no ordinary celestial object, it was a deliberate, intelligent traveler, heading for Earth with purpose and precision. The closer it came to Earth, the more the team analyzed its trajectory, its structure, and the fundamental implications of its presence. There was no doubt now 3 Atlas was not just passing through, it was actively navigating the solar system, and it was doing so with an intelligence that outstripped anything humanity had ever conceived. In the final stages of its approach, the object's course corrections became even more pronounced. It seemed to anticipate every shift in the debris field, every gravitational anomaly in its path. It didn't just react to obstacles, it preemptively adjusted its path, ensuring a collision-free passage. Its movements were no longer those of a passive celestial body, but those of a high-functioning, autonomous system. The theories about its origins began to converge around the idea that 3 Atlas was not just a probe or a spacecraft, it was a message. Whether it was from an advanced civilization or from something else entirely, its precise, deliberate approach to Earth suggested an intelligence that had been monitoring our planet for some time. Perhaps it had already seen Earth. Perhaps it had already mapped our gravity well, our atmosphere, and our electromagnetic emissions. As 3 Atlas reached its final deceleration phase, the world held its breath. The object, which had defied all natural laws and expectations, was now on a high-velocity intercept trajectory with the Earth-Moon system. The implications were profound. A 33 billion-ton object, capable of navigating through the densest debris field in the solar system and avoiding every obstacle, was now heading directly toward our planet. The scientific community had to ask, why? What was its purpose? Was it simply passing by, or had it been sent here for something greater? The object's behavior suggested that it had a mission, a plan, and a destination. Its advanced propulsion, precise navigation, and unexplained materials pointed to a level of technology far beyond anything humanity had developed. The question now was whether this technology had a message for us, or whether it was part of something much larger, something that we were not yet capable of understanding. In the final analysis, the evidence seemed to confirm what had once been dismissed as science fiction. 3 Atlas was not a natural object. It was a product of a Type II civilization, one capable of harnessing the energy of a star, manipulating the fabric of space-time, and traveling through the cosmos with an elegance and precision that humanity could not yet hope to match. As the object continued its approach, the world's focus turned to one central question: what happens next? Was this the arrival of a probe, a messenger from an advanced civilization, or was it something more ominous, a harbinger of a new era in our understanding of the universe? The silence of official space agencies only added to the sense of foreboding that now gripped the planet. The arrival of 3 Atlas marked the beginning of a new chapter in human history. No longer could we afford to look up at the stars and see them as distant, unreachable points of light. We were now on the cusp of contact with an intelligence that had traveled across the cosmos through the vacuum of space and was now staring directly at us. The era of speculative physics had ended. The era of contact had begun. And as the object made its final approach to Earth, one undeniable truth remained: we are not alone in the dark. The music of the spheres has a new performer, and its melody is directed squarely at us.